our resident experts, if you like. And just really, we are hoping that today's session is going to be mainly, questions and answers and sharing of ideas on how to resolve the current crisis, if I can say, I can term it that way. So it's really, today's session is about short to medium-term energy solutions for SMEs in Zambia. I mean, the well-known Zambian energy challenges. So I'm here with Chiwe Chihana, who is really the anchor of this series of chats, which is, we call it ZamPulse Chats. It's organized by Ungano Events. It's an initiative aimed at fostering entrepreneurship in Zambia. And our goal really is to provide a platform where Zambian entrepreneurs and business experts, and dare say, anybody really that deals with entrepreneurs and businesses, that includes government, NGOs, and other people interested in fostering the development of entrepreneurship and SMEs in Zambia. So that's really what this initiative is about. So it's ZamPulse Chats, organized by Ungano Events. Ungano Events is basically Chiwe and myself. We set up this event management company a couple of years ago, last year or so. So we're the main organizers. So, and really, like I say, we seek to inspire and equip current and aspiring entrepreneurs with the knowledge and skills that they need to grow their businesses. But obviously, given where we are, one of the challenges is that how do you actually continue operating? If you can even do that under the current climate of, I know there are varying opinions on this. Some people say we are on 21 hours a day of load shedding, others 17. I've heard people 4 days of load shedding. But whatever the truth is, I think it's fair to say we're in a crisis. So there's been a lot of, like I said, there's been a lot of suggestions and counter suggestions. A lot of people offering expert help, what solutions are available in the market. So we thought we should bring in people who are really close to the core, if you like, on these matters so that they're able to share with the rest of us. I'm not an energy expert myself. To share with the rest of us to say what is really the issue at the moment, but more importantly, what are the solutions for SMEs, so it's entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, even households. So today, that's really our topic of conversation. And with that, I would let you introduce the guests for tonight's event.
Thanks so much, Cuthbert, and welcome everybody. Thanks so much for making the time to join us today. My name is Chiwe Chihana, and I'm really delighted to be introducing our panelists. But to give you context, we asked them to discuss this context. We said, considering the ongoing energy challenges and load shedding in Zambia, this discussion should concentrate on practical strategies and solutions that entrepreneurs and SMMEs can implement over the next 12 months to maintain operations and ensure resilience. While medium to long-term solutions will be discussed, the primary focus will be on immediate actionable steps and measures. So before we get into the discussion, I would really like to introduce to you Lucky Munakampe, who is an energy consultant with a focus on operational efficiency and alternative energy sources. Lucky will provide expert advice on how businesses can adopt and implement effective energy strategies amidst ongoing challenges. Amongst many of his credentials, he is currently leading the development of a 400 megawatts Dengeza Coal IGCC phase 1 located in Sinazongwe District. So that is Lucky Munakampe. Also joining Lucky in this discussion is Patrick Hambai, who is a serial entrepreneur and leader in delivering cutting-edge technical solutions across sectors such as renewable energy, construction, and water infrastructure. Patrick will share transformative insights on how businesses can adopt sustainable practices to remain resilient, even during prolonged periods of load shedding. Now, the format is each panelist will respond to some tailored questions, and then we'll invite you, the audience, to participate by asking some questions, and then we'll offer some closing remarks. So with that, I'm going to go straight on to Lucky. Good evening, Lucky, and thanks so much for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity, and good evening to viewers.
Lovely. Lucky, given Zambia's current power deficit, what are the most cost-effective and quick to implement solutions SMMEs can adopt to improve energy reliability over the next year?
Okay, so thank you so much. I think at the moment, the most cost-effective technology that smaller businesses can implement is solar power. Okay, so immediate installation of small-scale solar systems is both cost-effective and feasible, as it reduces dependence on the grid, leveraging Zambia's abundant solar resources. Then for those who require heating, for example, if it's lodges, guest houses, they could equally switch to solar heaters. Now, there are other tools that are within reach, though not as cost-effective as solar. These could be backup generators, could be diesel or gas-powered generators that can provide short-term relief during outages. So reliable for critical functions, but should be paired with renewable options for long-term sustainability. Now, you discover that if you want something reliable, when you have solar on the other hand, you get better results or better functionality when you integrate batteries storage. Batteries, currently, they're a little bit costly, but the prices have started going down. So when you have your solar panels, then you integrate your battery storage. You discover that your operational efficiency quickly goes up. For instance, at our TV station at Astro TV currently, this is the solution we have adopted. And we have designed and configured it in such a way that our solar backup system is no longer the backup system, but it's our primary source of power. And the grid or ZESCO is now the secondary source of power. And I think from around June, when we implemented this solution, we've not been complaining as we have not been consuming any power from ZESCO.
Right. Thank you so much. Lucky, let me just get to Patrick so that Patrick could give us a context of actually what we're currently experiencing and a bit of historical context so that we can see where we're going as well in alignment with your solutions. Patrick, good evening and welcome to ZamPulse Chats.
Good evening to you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak on the renewable and the energy deficit that we have currently. I would like to provide a little bit of context. I've liked what Lucky has said about the solutions that he has provided for himself and then that are available to the public. I'm trying to contextualize it in the last 15 years in Zambia. I think of the last 15 years, in 7 of those years, we've had load shedding of one kind or another. And in maybe 3 or 4 of those years, we've had load shedding that is quite severe. So it's not a problem that is going away. It's a problem that's with us. So any solutions we start to offer have to recognize that there are challenges in the grid, there are challenges with the generation capacity, there's challenges in resilience. And as a businessman, you sometimes don't want to outsource the solution of your problems. You've got to take the bull by the horns and look for strategies that will help you survive as an SME. In that sense, we talk about the solar option, we talk about the diesel option, we talk about gas for heating, we talk about integrating the solar with the inverters and batteries. And there are so many options for innovation in that space. I'll leave it to Lucky now to provide a little bit more context on the other items.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Lucky.
Thank you so much. Sorry, my cough is quite bad.
No plans.
So, like actually he indicated, this challenge has been with us for quite some time. And for those who may not be aware, our main power generation facility, which has been Kariba, okay, we've been using less than 30% of its storage capacity for, I think, almost 15 to 20 years now. Meaning this power challenge is going to continue with us. It is going to be with us for the foreseeable future. Hence the need for people to adopt the technologies that we are discussing this evening.
Thank you so much. So then, Patrick, a bit more practical then. How you've literally taken a journey, and you took deliberate effort before this current crisis. I think in previous crises, you took the initiative to take ownership of the problem and provide solutions to your business. So how can SMMEs remain resilient during extended periods of load shedding, however, those that have not been able to do what you have done? Could you share examples maybe from your own experience?
The light we are on, the light we're using now is the solar. So Zesco has been our backup for that long. Prior to that, of course, solar is not very good for heat sources. So for home use, we switched to gas. And so those are the options that are available almost immediately. They're the low-hanging fruits. For heating, you switch to gas. For lighting, for refrigeration, for pumping, you can use the solar option. And the good thing about this is the prices for solar equipment has been falling. They've been falling quite rapidly. The batteries have come down quite substantially. The panels are commodities now. You can get them even for less than 2,000 for 560 watt panels. So, and the likelihood, the projections are that solar prices and solar panels and solar accessories will keep getting better, and will keep getting steep. So solar, of course, is the future, but you cannot use it in isolation. There are challenges in June, July when it's overcast. There are challenges as well. Sometimes technically when you've got big pumps or anything else, those problems are being ironed out, but it's got to be in the back pocket. You can build resilience around the business by having a small genset as well. That will tide you over. But in the long term, we found that solar is the solution. And the systems don't have to be very big. Small places, the 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt, 5 kilowatt, have been shown that they work quite effectively. And prices before would be like 100,000 for a 5 kilowatt. Prices have come down to about 48, so they're about half. And then I suspect they will keep falling as they get adopted more and more. So that's definitely something that we are actually moving to a stage where we're no longer using that we're even using it for our workshops, 50 kilowatt systems, 3-phase. So increasingly, we need to accept that it will take a little while for our main grid to be resilient and reliable enough to serve everyone at the same time.
Wonderful, brilliant. Lucky, did you have anything to come back on before I invite more people to start putting questions in the chat?
Yes, I think we should not just look to a time when the grid is going to be resilient, we must look at self-sustainability, okay? So if we adopt solar and we do the proper sizing, you discover that we should be able to operate efficiently, even without needing to get back to the grid. And if we can create and reach a level of resilience now, it means over time. For instance, if every month an SME is spending 500 kwacha on electricity from the grid, okay? Within 12 months, we can calculate how much this SME would have spent if they were on the grid. So you discover that by adopting solar, that has almost zero monthly expenditure on electricity, especially when you implement it as an off-grid solution. You are not just creating resilience in your operations, but you are equally saving on what you'd have been spending on those recurring monthly electricity bills. And secondly, on the cost of these products, we should be able to anticipate a further reduction because companies are setting up, for instance, lithium battery manufacturing plants. I know, for instance, there's one which will be commissioned, if it hasn't been commissioned already, in the China Jiangsu multi-economic facility zone in Chibombo. So basically, the prices for these products are coming down with each month that comes.
Brilliant. So in case you are just joining us, we are talking short to medium term energy solutions for SMMEs amid Zambia's energy challenges. And we have our expertise coming in from Patrick Hambai and Lucky Munakampe. If you could mute, if there's noise in your background, please could you mute yourself? That will really be helpful. Thanks. I would like to invite Cuthbert, my co-moderator today, to take on some questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think maybe just a preamble before I ask my question. There's some background noise there. I think we need to mute somebody. Okay, so basically, I think that the aim of this forum, is really to, we want the experts to tell it as it is. There's no sugarcoating here. There are no agendas. And I think it's quite important for us so that there's some great credibility attached to this. That's why we are inviting experts that really understand the sector to explain to all of us what is really happening. But I was interested and intrigued by what both Patrick and Lucky said. The reason I'm intrigued, I've heard several versions say load shedding will end in April, load shedding will end in October, load shedding will end in 12 months' time. And yet the picture you're painting is somewhat different. So I wanted to talk numbers in terms of describing what the problem is. What is the required level of power in Zambia? When you guys use the language of megawatts, whatever, what is required and what are we getting currently? And how soon can we get to the optimum level?
Thank you so much. If I may start. Okay, in terms of power generation as in installed capacity, Zambia has installed capacity that exceeds our national consumption. Okay. However, the challenge comes in where, when you look at the sources of this power, over 90% of it comes from hydro. Now, what compounds the situation worse is that majority of our hydro power plants sit on two rivers, the Zambezi River and the Kafue River. The Zambezi River has 2 power generating facilities, one at Kariba and the other smaller one at Victoria Falls, about 100 megawatts. The Kafue River has 3 major power plants. Number 1 is at Iteshiteji. Number 2 is at Kafue Gorge Upper. Number 3 is at Kafue Gorge Lower. Then in the northern circuit, we have a few smaller power plants, I think starting at about Serenge, you go into Kasamati, Chishimba Falls, and several other places. So what this entails is when climatic changes occur, like we experience this drought, you literally run short of the available power generation. You see that? So even when we have enough installed capacity, but because of the drought, that has lowered the available water to generate power. We have this deficit. And right now, our deficit is sitting at above 1,000 megawatts. Meanwhile, our national consumption sits at about 2,500 megawatts or thereabout. So hence, in order for us to create some level of resilience, we must improve our energy mix away from hydro, over-reliance on hydro. And that's why people are now talking about solar. People are now talking about coal or thermal. Others are talking about heavy fuels, like the way we have the one in Dola. There's a power plant, I think about 100 megawatts. That was commissioned recently. Is it Ndola Energy? That's a heavy fuel power plant. So that's actually where we are. Furthermore, I think the policy direction has been not just to be energy secure, but also energy sufficient, because it has been realized that actually electricity is good business. You talk of the Southern African power pool, where an independent power producer like myself can actually supply power to other countries that may be in need of power. However, the available capacity is slowly being overtaken by, you hear like the government talking about achieving 3 million metric tons of copper production, the annum say in the next 8 years. What this simply means is the available amount of power generation, we need to increase it, because the more mining activities happen, the more demand for power. We are talking about industrialization of the country. If you are in Mukushi, Serenge, Mansa, basically much of Central Province and Wapla provinces, a lot of industries have come up that are trying to process manganese and some of these other minerals. So what that simply means is we are creating more demand by each day that passes. Hence, we need to scale up our production. We are basically in this situation because we become comfortable with hydro. That's number one. Number two, we never scaled up our production. Thank you.
Okay. Patrick, can you assure me that load shedding will end in April?
I wish I could. But the reality is it's unlikely to be the case. I don't want to contradict anybody, but we have to look at the hydrology. We have to look at how much water is coming in. What's the level of the Kariba? How much water will come into the Kariba? We could end it in April, I guess, and then start again in August. So I don't see the point in ending it in April and then starting it again in August. We need, the Kariba needs to stock up three good rainy seasons. So, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. So I don't want to stray into the policy area, but I'm looking at it as a businessman. I need to do something about it with my business. I cannot change the world. I could change it but I need to survive. I need my employees to survive. I need my community to survive. So I need to take that matter in my hands. So those are the measures we are talking about that history has shown us, the recent history has shown us that the grid has not been reliable. So at the household level, at the business level, we've got to introduce reliability for ourselves. That would be my point. That would be my thing, yeah.
Maybe just to add up, maybe just to add up, our current challenge is actually not just about generation, okay? The grid itself, because it hasn't been maintained for quite some time, its capacity to carry power has become limited, okay?
Okay.
If you recall previously, we could import all the power we'd want from Mozambique, from South Africa. But now, because the grid itself, ZESCO tried to import, it collapses. ZESCO tries to import, it collapses. That's number one. Number two, from a business perspective, we need to show interest in issues like when people talk about Zambia being highly indebted, okay? Previously, before we became highly indebted, government through Ministry of Finance would easily import emergency power from the neighboring countries. Now you discover that currently, because of the high indebtedness, we no longer have that luxury of extra money to import power from wherever power may be available in the region. Hence, ZESCO now resorting to applying for emergency tariff to pay or to finance for that export. So indeed, like Mr. Hambai has said, yes, we can excite ourselves with the hope that load shedding will end anytime soon. But as a businessman, our view should be, even if ZESCO was to shut down completely, my business must continue running.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me turn it back to Chiwe now.
All right. Thanks a lot, Cuthbert. So we have a real situation where a lot of these solutions might not be low-hanging fruit for quite a lot of entities. And I think we do have to get into the policy space. Business owners will need to understand, SMMEs especially, what recent policy shifts, such as incentives for independent power producers, for example, and decentralization of renewable energy, should SMMEs be aware of? And how can they leverage those more practically? Lucky, is that more for you? Or Patrick, do you want to come in?
Thank you so much. I was struggling to unmute myself.
All right, okay, go ahead then.
Yes, quite a lot of exciting policies have been put in place. I think key among them is where now government has actually allowed, I would call it open access to the grid. So if I am able, myself and that one and that one and that company, we could actually come together and find a supply of power who's able to supply power to us directly. ZESCO definitely is going to charge us a small fee to use their network to bring in that power, okay? Now, what this simply does is it promotes competitive pricing and a greater energy security for smaller companies, as opposed to alternative, as an alternative to traditional energy. Recently, not too long ago, government introduced net metering, okay? Net metering, in essence, if you install adequate solar for your premises, more than you actually consume, at the end of the year, ZESCO is mandated to actually pay you for the excess that you supplied to the grid. However, this is being refined. As it is now, ZESCO is going to give you the units in unit form, Okay. The other thing that SMEs can actually do, which has been set up recently, is where a small company can set up, say, 1 megawatt up to 5 megawatt of a solar microgrid. Okay. Now, when you set this up, the process that is required for you to get a power purchase agreement, ZEMA, mention it. All those cumbersome procedures have been loosened up. Okay. So what this simply does is it encourages those SMEs or just
Lucky, we have lost you, I believe. Patrick, do you want to pick up in any aspect?
Businessmen
to
take keen interest in this market. Okay, you put it up, you'll be able to generate power. Consumer perspective, we are talking of certain import duties, has actually led to a reduction in the price of these commodities and put them within the reach of SMMEs. Okay. However, there will always be teething problems around these issues, whereby us people in business, sometimes when they
right, okay.
these incentives,
I think, Lucky, maybe we need you to.
Okay, so what this simply means
get
is
better connectivity.
May not immediately transfer this tax ultimately will be transferred to the end user.
Okay, Patrick, could you pick up for us then? These are real situations. We say businesses are really experiencing this.
Yeah, Uncle Lucky has a lot of the policy things that have been put in place, and I think they're very, very important. The net metering is exciting because it reduces your time for return of your investment. So if you were going to recover the cost of your solar panel in 3 years, possibly with net metering, you will have a lower period because you can invest, and then maybe that will mean you can actually invest in a bigger solar system. So that's a very, very exciting. The wheeling charge, making the grid available to everybody, that's a very, very important step. There's one more step that they need to do. However, we cannot continue to, ZESCO cannot be allowed to continue to sell power at 4 cents, buy it at 16 cents, for example, if we talk about the spot markets on the South African power pool. It's just not sustainable. And so something has to be done about the tariffs, because when you adjust the tariffs, you make them competitive, then we start to have a solution. Absent that, I don't see a solution in the long term. You cannot have a business that loses money and then expect it to. So tariffs at some point have to go up. Then if tariffs go up, then there'll be, people will rationalize the cost of the demand will go slightly lower, and then of course more investors will be attracted in. We'll get to a level where we have reliable electricity. So that has to happen. It was disappointing that ERB turned down the ZESCO thing. I believe ZESCO has reapplied again now. Possibly we may see a realization that no energy is much, much more expensive than expensive energy. So if we get to that realization, possibly then we may start seeing some progress in that regard.
What sort of possibilities are those? Like when you say possibly we might start to see, what sort of timescales are you giving that? Let's say if this goes
I'll give you just what's been happening. There have been a lot of MOUs signed, the 2.5 gigawatts with the guys from the Middle East, another 2.5 gigawatts signed from China. But when you look at the ground, there's not even a single kilowatt that was built. Why is that? The tariffs are bad. So people cannot put in, they cannot put in their money when they know they're going to lose the money, certainly. So we are failing to unlock that. That must be unlocked, that people who are going to invest need to have a return on the investments that they put in. So until that happens, we'll be seeing words about things improving. I'm not too sure we'll see improvement on the ground, but that's my view about it. So as a businessman, you don't want to wait for externalities. You take the bull by the horns and you protect yourself.
I'm just going to bring Lucky on because Lucky is about to leave us, and then maybe as for a last comment before we take questions from the audience. Lucky.
Yes, so I had to move to the next assignment. I actually joined this discussion from Mulungushi International Conference Center. I basically just want to encourage the people who are viewing us to take this challenge of energy personally. You know, put the interests of your business first, such that no matter what happens, your business must be able to continue running. Now, even as you do that, because of this energy crisis that we have, you discover that even bogus suppliers who may be supplying uncertified products are actually on the market, probably because quality control measures are not really that serious. So even as you wish to embark on solar, ensure that you engage people who have demonstrated expertise, demonstrated experience in installation of these solutions. They must be able to size your load accordingly, because I've seen people who have regretted adopting solar because they didn't do the sizing properly. You spend 50, 60,000 kwacha on a solar backup solution, but it can't power your requirements. So we cannot sugarcoat it. Solar is still expensive. However, the expense for solar is upfront. But once you install quality equipment, for instance, solar panels have a lifespan of about 15 to 20 years. Lithium batteries have a lifespan of about 10 to 15 years, that kind of thing. So if you're going to get into solar, ensure that you invest into genuine equipment, which will not give you problems and again, begin to affect your business. Once more, I wish to thank the organizers, Ungano, for giving me this opportunity to feature on this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lucky. It's been lovely having you. And just to confirm, we can share your contact details with people who want them so they can pick up with you later. Is that okay?
Sure, it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jonathan Perry, I'd like to invite you on if you would like to ask your question in person and probably provide a bit more context on biogas.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Great insights, really, and I've learned quite a lot. My question on biogas, one of the speakers previously said something like solar can be used for lighting, but when it comes to cooking, an alternative would be gas. So for me, I wanted to ask, how feasible is biogas? Talking about the entire value chain of its production, its processing, its distribution, and whatnot, with a specific emphasis on how can we maximize the use of biogas for cooking in Zambia. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan, for your question. I think we haven't touched very much on biogas. Biogas is a viable alternative, but it's not viable. The last time I checked the figures, it's not viable in the urban areas. If you're in the peri-urban and in the rural area, you've got a lot of pigs, you've got a lot of livestock and the other stuff, then you can have enough quantity of biogas to things. It's got a big capital cost upfront for you to build the biodigesters and everything else. So you have to be ready for that big initial. And then you need to feed it all the time with the waste from either your pigs, your cattle, things. The other part as well, which we had considered at some point 20 years ago, was the possibility that you could do that in crowded places, for example, for human waste, prisons, hospitals, and things like that. Then you could do that. But for a household, I'm not too sure that the capital cost is way too great, and the quantity of biogas you get won't be anything that will make economic sense. So it's a solution that's available to certain communities, but it cannot be applied in the urban setting, in my opinion.
Thank you. Jonathan, you're good with that? Okay, I'll take a question from Sally that's in the chat. And Sally asked, is the Bureau of Standards going to be involved in this solar frenzy to check what products
Thank you very much.
brought onto the market?
It's a yes and no answer. Some people want a Benz, some people want a Vitz. So you can't impose a uniform standard. Some people will be happy with the bare minimum. Some people want the Bentley right at the end. I'm aware when we import stuff, you have to have a Zambia Bureau of Standard. You even have to register with ERB. So there is some regulation and some checking going on. But ultimately, it's buyer beware in the market, and there's a very, very wide range. You cannot leave the responsibility just to Zambia Bureau of Standards. I'm also of the view the less government you have, the better. He governs best who governs least. So if we try and over-regulate, then we kill innovation, we kill all the new products, because regulation cannot move as fast as the market and as the innovations come in. So it's that balance that's required. I prefer light touch regulation to heavy touch regulation.
Right. Well, but do you not prefer recommendation though? I'm just thinking about, when you're talking about either you or Lucky, or probably both of you spoke about the longevity of solar. So once you install it, you tend to want to think it will last up to a certain time and can run your business, help you efficiently for quite a considerable time. I think 15 years was cited. But in your opinion, is that a blanket perception that you have that this is because I think that's a real concern that Sally has raised about.
It is a real concern. And I was not being flippant about it. I was saying buyers beware. I like the word you use, recommendation.
Yeah.
We go with recommendation. You don't outsource your opinion to somebody, not go Zambia Bureau of Standards and nameless things. So you've got to do your research as a buyer. You've got to consult people who have actually done exactly what you've done. So because there will be, let's face it, there will be charlatans. There will be the cheapest guys whose products last a week. Then there'll be the other guys. Over time, the people with a reputation, they are the guys who dominating the market. Of course, maybe they'll be charging the highest prices, and people want to run away from those high prices. They go to the cheap places and they get their regret. But that's that cycle applies, whether it's to solar, it's to cars, to all the products. So, yeah. But I don't know, I'm of a view, the lighter the regulation, the better.
Thank you. I'm gonna bring Cuthbert back in. Cuthbert, did you want to come on?
Yeah, probably if there are no further questions. There's a wise man on this program, somebody I've known for a long time, and he's been in this sector for over 25 years. He's has been my go-to guy, on some of those issues. So if he's still present, I really want to hear a word or two from Mr. Boyd Symposium. what his view is and what he would recommend. I don't know whether he's still there.
Yes, he is. I've just asked to unmute.
Okay.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Cuthbert. I must start by disappointing you. I think Mr. Hambai understands the PV market or terrain much better than I do. And he continues, of course, to provide a lot of interesting aspects to that technology. But broadly speaking, I think in terms of the legislation, we are in a very good position today than we were, let's say, 12, 18, 24 months ago, in that the administration has allowed a lot more participation from SMEs, for instance, in the energy sector. That's one thing. The second point would really be the regulations that have been discussed by Patrick and others. If you look at net metering, for instance, that's a big A+. I have issues with how it actually operates, but I think it's a move in the right direction. And also the fact that they've looked at the installed capacities. Previously, I think it was light-handed regulation for something like 100 kilowatts or 10 kilowatts, I can't remember. But that's gone up to 10 megawatts, 5 megawatts for solar, and I think it's 10 megawatts for the other variable renewable energy sources. These appear to be small numbers, but if you look at our history of the industry, 5 megawatts is a significant addition to our generation fleet without going through the same hula hoops as somebody who would be investing in, let's say, 200, 300, 1,000 megawatts. The platform, in my view, and I must emphasize, it's personal. But I can see that there's a distinct move by the current administration to try and get this energy sorted out one way or the other. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of mistakes. That's to be expected. But it's given players in the sector much more leeway in terms of how they want to develop their generation assets. As I said earlier, on net metering, I've got a few, I don't know how to describe them, but one challenge is that you are required, if you overproduce, you've got your small solar PV installation like Mr. Hambai's, in times where you don't need the energy that you're producing, you go and park it in the utilities network. But according to the law, you can't get your energy back if ZESCO's network is not available. And you cannot export if the utilities network is not available. This is for safety reasons. You don't want to fry a linesman who is working with your distribution transformer when ZESCO's having problems. And on the other hand, when you are stuck, you would have packed your energy in the system, but you can't get access to it. It's a bit like your bank being ring-fenced by the central bank. Your funds are inaccessible. This is not, of course, unique to Zambia, but these are some of the things that I think people should be aware of. Just because you banked your money in the system doesn't necessarily mean that you can get it on demand when and as you please. But overall, very happy personally, and talking to colleagues in the sector. I think things are looking up. Certainly much better, and I repeat this, much better than we've seen in previous years. So I think this is a fantastic time to participate in the energy business. I'd be happy to field questions as long as they're not too difficult and they're not from aspects on this conversation.
You know, thank you very much, Mr. Symposia, because I think for me, the positivity that you've highlighted there, you know, sometimes when there's a crisis, even when the solution is not very obvious, you just need somebody to say, we're going to be okay. Somehow that gives a bit of confidence. So the fact that you've said that, in your opinion, in your years of experience, of course, with Patrick and Lucky, in your years of experience, we are in a much better space. It might take time, but it looks like the stars are aligned for us to solve this problem at some point. So I think for me, that's the positive message I take away from your contribution.
Does anybody have questions for Mr. Symposia? He's availed himself.
There was a question, say, with this net metering, would there be any additional infrastructure required? I think it was Jonathan. Somebody asked that question.
Yeah. Go on.
Let's just recast the question with the net metering.
Okay. So it says, once we have the framework set for net metering, will there be a need for new infrastructure like smart meters, things like that?
My understanding is that the utility will be, for lack of a better word, there'll be the final arbiter in terms of how this net metering will work. I don't think we'll have a situation where you go and pick up any odd meter and use that to interconnect with the utility. What I've read, or at least what I've been told, is that there'll be 100% participation from the state utility. So remember, your border will be between your installation and the utility's installation is the meter. So from your feed-in end, that's your responsibility. The uptake going into your local transformer, however you're getting that power in, that's the utility's business. And I think that's the right way to do it, because they'll have a bird's eye view of what's happening in your location. So you don't want too many independent producers overwhelming your facilities. So they will know how much, for instance, they can import from a particular section of their network, distribution network, which information individuals may not necessarily have. So it just makes sense that the final arbiter is the state utility, who will be responsible for banking your energy as well as sending it back when you require it.
Yeah,
I
maybe
could
I
be wrong,
could speak.
but that's my understanding. Sorry, Patrick.
Yeah, I could just add on to what Mr. Symposia is saying. There's also the safety aspect that he had talked about, that I'm generating power and then there's a fault on the line and then I just want to pump power into the grid. That could be a problem. So then there's also the aspect of they need to decide how many people can pump energy into any particular line, because you can actually overload it. So there's those grid impacts there. So the utility will be very, very much in charge of that. And then the interface is, of course, the smart meter. And smart meaning you can do quite a few things, cut you off, measure, do a number of things. But also on the consumer side, before you connect, they need to look at your device. it's not just any inverter that they will allow to connect the thing. We may remember from our physics, the shape of our AC, it's a sine wave, and 50 hertz. And so we don't want to feed in things that are not in conformity with the rest of the grid is operating. So the utility will come in to certify that the device that you have is able to supply the power at the quality that they need. And then, of course, then they'll monitor and regulate that. If you remember, there was a figure actually that was put towards providing that infrastructure. It won't be cheap. It won't be cheap. That infrastructure, ZESCO has to spend money on it. And of course, even just a physical rollout takes time. So it's a step in the right direction, no doubt about it, but it won't just happen all at once. You have to be physically rolled out, and so that everything is safe and there's no disruption to the grid activities while that is happening.
Thank you so much. Before I get to Adams and perhaps Jonathan again, I would like to hear, we were hoping we'd have somebody from the financing world, but you may have some responses to this question. We were wondering what financing models are available to SMMEs looking to invest in energy solutions like the ones you've just been talking about today. Are you aware of any? And Mr. Simple, since you've made yourself available, please join Patrick on that one.
I can start on that. There are a number of banks that are providing loan facilities for SMEs, but we know what the barriers are to obtaining finance in the country. The high interest rates, the almost usurious rates. So the question is, when you get that loan, you're putting a noose around your neck. So you've got to look at that. Then there's and I know there are one or two bigger solar suppliers who allow you to pay in installments, almost like you can pay over 3 months, and then it's what you call lay-by. In South Africa, you call it a lay-by. They allow you to do that. Then the other part as well is with a lot of these solar systems, they are modular. So the panels, so you don't have to install everything all at once. You can grow the system as your funding and as your ability increases. So there are a number of financing options. We could go to the Kenyan example where even the MTN, the mobile station, the mobile facilities, they give loans and then integrated with mobile money, you get that. I think it was tried in Zambia for a short while and it didn't take off very well. So there are a number of these things. But for me, what excites me most, and Lucky had alluded to that, is my view is you actually will make money by getting onto, for example, a solar system. Let's take a business that uses 2,000, maybe 1,000 per month worth of electricity, and you put in, and if you do that kind of business, possibly you would be turning over, let's say 30,000, 40,000 in a month, 20,000, whatever in a month. It's a small operation. The 1,000 gets dwarfed by, if you don't spend that 1,000, the opportunity cost is you lose so much more. So you really want to be able to, if you have to spend the 2,000, whatever. And what happens is, what comes out for me is quite clearly, and I've seen it in a number of businesses, you want to continue. Your power may cost twice as much, but the cost of not doing the business because you lack, what was that to say? For the lack of a nail, a kingdom was lost. For the lack of a solar system, you lose your livelihood. It doesn't make sense. You need to spend that money, and then from the savings, if you're spending 1,000 a month, you spend on a 30,000 unit, in 2 years, you have gotten all back that money. And then for the next, after 2 years, you're actually in positive territory. So the economics were previously, I remember 2019 when it was 7 years. But I was ready for that because I was looking at more kind of resilience and I didn't want disruptions. So I was paying for reliability. But now you can actually get reliability and you can even get payback in a much shorter 3 years, 2 years. And I would think the payback period is getting lower and lower. So people need to look at that. Yeah. And then with net metering, once it takes off, the payback period will even be shorter. So yeah, and then maybe let me also just bring out that people are considering gensets, diesel gensets. I'm not a fan of them. For big loads, like a pump, you can have a small backup. The fact of the matter is that the fuel will not go down. I mean, the gensets will not go down. I think they are noisy. You have to be maintained, and then a lot of the gensets that are on the market, they are disposable. After you can't use them for the 21 hours every day, and then they start breaking down. So you find you don't want to saddle yourself with an asset that after 6 months you throw away, and then every day you're putting 100 kwacha of diesel. When you look at it, you find you're better off spending a bit more money up front. And then you've got a power source that's quiet. You get a power source that you can sell, and you don't have no ongoing costs after that. So increasingly, I was reading Strive, my CEO's article. He was saying in 10 years that there'll be no diesel generators. The diesel generator will be like a thing, it will be like the horse cart. It won't be that. So the future is most likely more solar PV. So I would urge SMMEs to look at that and say, when the crisis ends, because the crisis will end. Yeah, so will I still continue to make money from that? So with a diesel genset, you have to pack it. There's nothing you can do. But with the solar thing, you'll be mitigating your bills. So instead of spending the 2,000 you're supposed to spend, you get the free electricity. So you're using this as a backup, and then you're effectively paying yourself, and you're paying it against the capital cost you incurred earlier on. So that would be my view. I'll talk about, maybe let me just talk about the siting opportunities that are in this sector. There was a study that was done, which I was aware of. The gas, there's gas that's been discovered in Mozambique, there's gas in Tanzania, there's gas all over. Possibly we may get a gas pipeline into Zambia. If we go on a per capita consumption basis, Kenyans, I think, use 6 times as much gas per capita as Zambians. Zambians, we've been very, very slow on the uptake of gas. But this is an opportunity. So there's been tremendous excitement, tremendous upcoming entrepreneurs who have jumped into this space. They've opened depots, they've opened outlets, they're going out into the townships, they're loaning out stoves. You can reach them on an app to supply you with gas. Exciting stuff. It's no longer when they run you, they teach you, they handhold you for your first gas things. Exciting stuff, and I've had the opportunity to use a few of them, and it's exciting stuff. So in the gas thing, in the solar thing, people are partnering with people from China, from Canada, and they're learning how to install. They're getting a livelihood. It's exciting things that are happening, and they're making it more convenient to do that. And when you provide power and reliable power, and the power, it's not just on the thing, but on the outskirts, you change lives. People can read, you can use grinders, it's exciting stuff that's happening. And all of it is exciting. It's happening not necessarily in Lusaka, it's happening in the peri-urban, it's happening in the villages. Exciting stuff. Yeah.
So the trajectory is looking good.
Trajectory looks good.
Looks good.
Yeah, trajectory
okay.
looks good. Yeah.
Right. I'm really sorry. I know we've had quite a few questions, but I'm wondering whether people would be amenable to us continuing this discussion on the entrepreneurship group, if you're part of the entrepreneurship group, because we are quite strict about meeting our time and we're 7 minutes over the time that we had allocated. So I really want to say thank you so much to everybody who has stayed on the call for your patience, and all contributors, including Mr. Symposia, Cuthbert, and the team that has co-organized this, which includes Chairway and Hilda and Patrick. Really appreciate that you stayed on and covered for both. Thank you so much for joining us on ZamPulse Chats. The next one will be in Zambia, and it will be in person. We are expecting potential guests, either Meraki or another one, but please do join us. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Good night.
Thank you.